Hi guys, so before we get into it, a couple of quick disclaimers. Firstly, you'll find all my other reviews of Vincent Price movies in my Vincent Price playlist, and there will be spoilers today in theory, but in actuality I can't spoil the ending because I didn't fully get it, but we'll talk about that in a little while. So this is another one of those movies that was directed by Roger Corman, is adapted from Edgar Allan Poe material and stars Vincent Price. I believe there are 8 movies in total that feature all 3 of those ingredients, and this was actually the final one. This was the swan song. I've not seen all of these particular movies, but I have seen a fair few of them at this point, albeit in a pretty random order. So this one is about a widower called Varden, played by Price. He lives in a converted priory right next to a graveyard, and one day he's looking at his wife's grave when 3 horse riders swing past. They're all dressed really smartly, almost as if they've entered an equestrian competition but got lost. I don't know what they're doing riding horses in a graveyard, but the woman of the 3 falls off and literally lands on a grave. And Varden strikes up a conversation with her, and he ends up inviting all 3 riders back to the priory for a look around. But it's mainly Rowena who he gets to know, and they strike up a friendship, and eventually they have a romance. But is it doomed to fail? Because we sort of get the hint that the spirit of the dead wife might still be lingering around. She hasn't fully passed on. But is the wife still living inside Varden somehow? Or is she living in the black cat who lives in the priory? Or is she living in neither? And actually she's just floating around, getting ready to jump into Rowena's body, maybe. There's a few possibilities, and we don't really find out until almost at the end of the film. And I must admit, the conclusion to this did leave me a little bit confused, but you know what? What's new with me? Aside from the fact that he's wearing these really unorthodox sunglasses that make him look like he's trying out for Dr. Octopus in a 60s Spider-Man movie, this is your typical Vincent Price character for me. So he's widowed, he's living in a spooky place by himself, cobwebs on the furniture are optional, but they are present and correct here. He's constantly got a pained expression on his face, he speaks in a really theatrical, dramatic and poetic sort of way. Maybe I'm just thinking of the Poe movies that he starred in. Maybe Poe just liked to write main characters in a certain type of way, but I've definitely seen this version of Vincent several times before. Not that that's a bad thing. His co-star here, Elizabeth Sheppard, who plays Rowena and also the role of the dead wife where required, she's excellent. This is very much a 2-man show sort of a movie. It's Price and Sheppard, and then the rest of the cast are just feeding off scraps pretty much. But Sheppard does very well alongside Price. I was very impressed with her as an actress. It turns out that I have seen her in one other movie before. So at the end of the 70s, she would go on to be in Omen 2. She would have been middle-aged by that point, I guess. Apparently, she plays the role of the woman who gets knocked over by a truck about halfway through. I don't remember that particular kill, but I've definitely seen Omen 2 a few times, just not for a while. This is not a quick fix sort of a horror film. There's not a lot of thrills and spills and kills. It often feels like there's horror lingering in the air. You can feel it as a viewer. Certainly the characters can sense it, but it's never like right in front of your face. You know, it often feels like there's not a lot happening in this. You might get to the halfway point of the film actually and still not know what the story's meant to be about. And by the end, you will certainly have questions because the script doesn't explain everything that's going on with the spirit of the dead wife. You've just got to try and work it out yourself if you can. It's a film that would reward a second viewing, I think, and at 81 minutes, that wouldn't be a massive time sink, but do go in prepared for more of a drama film with bits of horror attached to it rather than just an outright horror film. It's a gradual creep of an affair, I would say. The best thing about it's probably the locations. This film is gorgeous to look at, if nothing else. A lot of it was filmed at Castle Acre Priory in Norfolk. It's all ruins, but it looks so good on film. And even the inside of the priory was a real location that they used. I don't think it was an actual movie set. Varden's living room is enormous. It's like a cavern. It's like a Bond lair. And the two main characters even find the time in the story to go to Stonehenge, which they went to for real. You can see them leaning up against the giant rocks and stuff. One thing that older movies do a lot better than newer ones, or did, is the locations. They just seem to find so many better places to film in the old days compared to now. Maybe it's a money thing. Maybe over time, places have just realised how to make money out of film productions. I mean, if you tried to shoot a movie at Stonehenge now, probably some bureaucrat from Somerset Council is going to stick his head above the parapet and say, "Oh, film crew, eh? Well, let's see the colour of your green." As much as I like the two actors at the helm, the relationship arc for their characters is pretty awfully handled. So obviously there's a massive age gap between Vincent Price and Elizabeth Sheppard. 25 years, I checked. So at the start of this, it probably won't even occur to you that they will get together romantically, because they seem more like a potential father and stepdaughter maybe. And it's not like they have an amazing chemistry to kind of override the age gap issue. They actually seem quite antagonistic towards each other a lot of the time. So when they suddenly get married halfway through this movie, you may do a bit of a double take, as I did. I actually thought it might be a dream sequence at first, but no. They get married, and then suddenly they're off on this montage of honeymoon moments, including going to Stonehenge. And then when they come back, they don't even sleep in the same bedroom. It's so weird. Now, I know that sometimes there are these massive age gap relationships where the woman is mainly just in it for the money and maybe the old guy is a bit of a decrepit old fool, but it's not like Varden in this film is moving around on a walking frame. Vincent Price in 1964, when this was made, still looks like a kind of sexy 50-something guy, almost at the peak of his powers, but not quite. You know, I'm sure he could have a sexual relationship, and yet they're in separate bedrooms. It's just very strange indeed, and it's not like Rowena seems like the sort of woman who would need to marry for money. She's no peasant girl just picked up off the streets. At the start of this story, she rides in on this horse, dressed in this fancy horse riding gear. It's the sort of stuff that, you know, only people who are really from the upper classes would wear. And she's actually got a fiancé at the start of the film, but she leaves him to go for Varden, who's like 20 odd years older than her fiancé, and the fiancé seems quite happy to just let Rowena go for most of the movie. He's pretty chilled out about it. Weird. Maybe if the spirit of Ligeia gets into Rowena at the start of the movie, at the moment she falls on the grave, that could explain why Rowena wants to get with Varden when part of her deep down actually doesn't like him all that much. That could explain what happens in the story, I guess. It also crossed my mind at the end of this, when Rowena goes off with her much younger fella, maybe Ligeia is definitely inside Rowena at this point, and so Rowena doesn't exist anymore, so Ligeia is getting to go off and have this new life with this other guy. Maybe. I'm not sure there's meant to be one definitive set of answers for this film, and it's not like we can even go back and check the original material, because I believe that the script for this was... It made a lot of changes from the story that Poe wrote. But overall, I did like it, but mainly because of how great the film looks and the acting. In terms of a drama, it's extremely flawed. And I'd actually go as far as to say that it doesn't work at all as a drama. And the horror side of things is obviously negligible. So it's a very much a mixed bag. I wouldn't start with this one. If you're thinking of getting into the Price, Poe, Corman films, I'd start with The Pit and the Pendulum and work gradually, very gradually, towards the Tomb of Ligeia, maybe at the very end. So there we go. Ultimately. Right, it's time to get to the bag of terror so I can show you what score I'm going to give the Tomb of Ligeia. Here's the bag. So we got 1, 2.5 Michael Myers carving knives out of 5. So I've decided to split this one down the middle. I think that's fair. I do feel maybe I could have gone up another half, but I've got to stay objective. I can't let my Vincent Price fandom rule my head. So we're going with this. At the time I'm recording, it's Halloween, so tonight I will be off out with the kids trick-or-treating. We do this every year. They get outfits. I don't bother. Call me a bore, whatever. There's this one house where they go really above and beyond. You know, there's like decorations all over the place. They must spend hours doing their garden and the sides of their house up for Halloween. And I'm guessing it's the dad of the house. He dresses up as some kind of nondescript serial killer with a chainsaw. It's not meant to be Leatherface because he doesn't have the right mask, but it's just a serial killer with a chainsaw. It's not a real one, but it's like a fake one that still makes the proper noise, like, and he kind of hides behind the wall or the bush or whatever. And every time we go up the garden path, he just pops out and he's like, and the kids all bolt back to the street, and I'm guessing he does it to like every kid that goes for candy. He's done it for like 2 years now. I wonder if serial killer guy is going to be waiting for us behind the side of the house tonight. We will see. But other than that, I will let you go. Feel free to follow me on X if you'd like to. My name is the same on there as it is here. And other than that, I will say happy Halloween and see you for the next video. Bye-bye.